We've known each other many years, but this is the first time you ever came to me for counsel, for help.
Welcome back to the channel. If you're a fan of real cinema, then buckle up because today we're diving into one of the most explosive decades in film history. The 1970s wasn't just a time for movies, it was a revolution. This was when Hollywood threw out the rule book and said, let's get real, let's get raw, let's get dangerous. We're talking about gritty realism, unforgettable anti-heroes, and performances so powerful they still give us chills today. This was the era that birthed some of the greatest actors who ever lived, legends who didn't just ACT, they transformed cinema itself. So grab your popcorn, hit that like button, and smash that subscribe because we're about to count down the 10 most iconic actors of the 1970s, the men who didn't just define an era, they owned it. Let's roll. 1. Marlon Brando. We're starting with the Godfather himself, Marlon Brando. Now listen, even before the 1970s hit, Brando was already a legend. We're talking about the guy who revolutionized method acting in the 1950s. But the 70s? That's when he achieved immortality. The Godfather. Boom! Brando stepped into the role of Vito Corleone and delivered what many consider the greatest performance in cinema history. That quiet menace, that gravelly whisper, the way he could convey everything with just a look, absolute mastery. He stuffed cotton balls in his cheeks to get that iconic look. He improvised the cat in the opening scene. He made us believe in this world, this family, this code. And when he won the Academy Award for Best Actor, he refused it. Sent a Native American activist named Sachin Littlefeather to the ceremony to protest Hollywood's treatment of indigenous people. Legendary move that made headlines around the world. But here's the thing. Brando wasn't done. He also starred in Last Tango in Paris, one of the most controversial and talked about films of the decade. Love it or hate it, you cannot ignore Brando's raw vulnerability in that role. The 1970s proved that Marlon Brando wasn't just an actor. He was a force of nature. 2. Al Pacino. If there's one actor who absolutely owned the 1970s, it's Al Pacino. Picture this. It's 1972 and a relatively unknown stage actor lands the role of Michael Corleone in The Godfather. The studio didn't even want him. They thought he was too short, too intense, too different. But director Francis Ford Coppola fought for him. And thank God he did. We watch Michael transform from this quiet, innocent war hero who wants nothing to do with the family business into a stone-cold, calculating mafia boss who betrays everyone around him. That transformation? Chilling. Brilliant. Unforgettable. And Pacino didn't stop there. Throughout the 70s, he was unstoppable. Serpico in 1973, playing a real-life cop who stood up against corruption. The intensity, the righteousness. Dog Day Afternoon in 1975, one of the most electric performances you'll ever see. Attica, Attica. That scene alone is iconic, and Justice for All in 1979. You're out of order. The whole trial is out of order. Still gives me chills. Al Pacino didn't just act in the 70s. He exploded onto the screen every single time. He brought an emotional intensity that was raw, vulnerable, and completely mesmerizing. The 1970s turned Al Pacino into a cinematic god. 3. Robert De Niro. Now we're talking about the king of method acting, Robert De Niro. No actor, and I mean no actor, embodied the dark, gritty realism of 1970s cinema like De Niro did. His collaboration with director Martin Scorsese started with Mean Streets in 1973, and that was just the beginning of one of the greatest actor-director partnerships in film history. But 1976, that's when everything changed. Taxi Driver hit theaters and shook the world. De Niro as Travis Bickle, a lonely, disturbed Vietnam vet driving through the hellscape of New York City, the isolation, the rage, the descent into madness. De Niro made us feel every ounce of Travis's pain and insanity. You talking to me? That scene. He improvised most of that. It's become one of the most quoted moments in cinema history. And here's the crazy part. In 1974, De Niro won an Oscar for playing the young Vito Corleone in The Godfather Part 2. He learned to speak Sicilian for the role, and even though he barely spoke English in the film, his performance was powerful. He showed us where The Godfather came from, the struggles, the choices, the birth of a legend. De Niro didn't just play characters, he disappeared into them. He gained weight, learned languages, changed his entire physicality. The 1970s belonged to Robert De Niro, and he left an indelible mark on cinema forever. 4. Jack Nicholson. Oh man, here comes the rebel, the wild card. The man with that devilish grin, Jack Nicholson. The 1970s were the golden age of Jack Nicholson, and let me tell you why. This guy represented everything the 70s stood for: rebellion, freedom, challenging authority, and doing it all with that signature Nicholson smirk. 5 Easy Pieces in 1970, Nicholson plays a man rejecting his privileged background. And that diner scene? I Want You to Hold It Between Your Knees. Classic. Chinatown in 1974, playing private detective J.J. Gittis in one of the greatest neo-noir films ever made. Complex, mysterious, and that ending? Devastating. But 1975, that's when Nicholson became a cultural icon. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Randall McMurphy, a free spirit locked in a mental institution, battling the oppressive Nurse Ratched. The performance was explosive, raw, vulnerable, defiant. Nicholson showed us what it meant to fight for your freedom, your dignity, your humanity. He won the Academy Award, and the film swept the Oscars: Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress. Legendary. Jack Nicholson wasn't trying to fit into Hollywood's mold, he shattered it. He showed that leading men could be complicated, unpredictable, and absolutely magnetic. The 70s made Jack Nicholson an icon for the ages. 5. Dustin Hoffman. Here's the guy who proved that you didn't need to look like a traditional movie star to be a movie star. Dustin Hoffman. Hoffman brought something revolutionary to cinema in the 1970s. Authenticity. He looked like a real person, acted like a real person, and made you believe every single moment. The decade started with Midnight Cowboy, playing Ratso Rizzo, a down-and-out con man in New York City. That performance was heartbreaking. You felt his desperation, his vulnerability, his humanity. Then came Little Big Man, Straw Dogs, Papillon, Lenny. Hoffman was everywhere, and every role was completely different. He had range like you wouldn't believe. All the President's Men in 1976, playing journalist Carl Bernstein during the Watergate investigation. Intense, gripping, important. But 1979, that's when Hoffman delivered one of his most powerful performances, Kramer versus Kramer, playing Ted Kramer, a workaholic father who suddenly has to raise his son alone when his wife leaves. The struggle, the growth, the love, the custody battle. Hoffman brought such vulnerability and emotional honesty to that role. The scene where he's trying to make French toast, the final courtroom scenes, devastating. He won the Academy Award for Best Actor, and he deserved it. Dustin Hoffman changed what it meant to be a leading man in Hollywood. You didn't need perfect looks, you needed truth. And Hoffman delivered truth in every frame. Wow, what a decade, what a lineup of legends. The 1970s gave us some of the greatest performances in movie history. These actors didn't just entertain us, they changed cinema forever. They pushed boundaries, took risks, and showed us what real acting looked like. From Brando's quiet menace to Pacino's explosive intensity, from De Niro's raw transformation to Nicholson's rebellious spirit, these men defined an era. They proved that movies could be art, that characters could be complex, and that audiences were ready for something real. So here's my question for you. Which 1970s actor is your favorite? Who do you think gave the best performance of the decade? Let me know in the comments below. I want to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed this journey through Hollywood's golden decade, do me a favor. Smash that like button, subscribe for more awesome content, hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. And hey, if you want more deep dives into cinema history, let me know what decade or topic you want to see next. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Keep watching. Keep loving cinema. And remember, the greatest performances never fade. Peace out.